So last class we looked at solving quadratic equations by factoring. And again, a quadratic equation is an equation that's in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c. Last class we looked at factoring to solve these. Now you can solve quadratic equations most of the time. One way is by factoring, and if factoring doesn't work, then we're going to have to use a quadratic formula. But we're going to take a look at what the quadratic formula is and how you use it. This formula, it's not something that you have to memorize. It is something that is going to be given to you, but I still would like for you to write it down. The quadratic formula is negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, all of that divided by 2a. Now there's a lot of stuff going on in there, but whenever we're given a quadratic equation, we can identify our a, our b, and our c. So the formula is just something that we're going to have to evaluate. So, for example, and when you're filling this out, I want you to put it in the boxes on your chart. So in our first box, the first equation we're going to look at is x squared minus 7x plus 6 equals 0. In our second box, we want to identify our a, our b, and our c. The a always is the coefficient of the x squared term, and here, since there's nothing in front of x squared, that means there's a 1 there. So my a equals 1. My b comes from in front of my x, so my b is negative 7. And then my c is always my constant term, so my c equals 6. So again, go ahead and write down the quadratic formula inside the next box, which is negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, all of that divided by 2 times a. Alright, now, what we want to do is we want to take our values and we want to plug them in. So, since my b value is negative 7, I'm actually going to have now negative times negative 7. This first negative is because it's part of my formula. That second negative comes from the fact that my b value equals negative 7. Now I have plus or minus the square root of b squared, which is negative 7. So I have negative 7 squared, minus 4 times a, which is 1, times c, which is 6, all of that divided by 2 times a, which is 2 times 1. Alright, so we got a lot of stuff going on here. The first thing that we're going to take a look at is first we're just going to take a look at what's in the radical. So on your chart, the next box is we're just going to simplify the radical. So when I do that, what I have inside is negative 7 squared, which is 49, and then minus 4 times 1 times 6, and here I have negative 4 times 1, which is negative 4, times 6, which is negative 24, so I'm going to have 49 minus 24 inside my radical. 49 minus 24 is 25, so inside my radical is the square root of 25, and the square root of 25 is 5. So now, all I've done is I have figured out what goes in place of that mess that's inside my radical. So now what I want to do is go back to my original problem, and now it says to separate and evaluate. What that means is, inside my formula, I have this plus or minus. What this plus or minus means is I have to do my negative b plus the square root divided by 2a. I also have to do my negative b minus the square root divided by 2 times a. So when I go back to my formula, I have negative times negative 7. First I'm going to do plus what was inside my radical, which was 5. All of that divided by 2 times 1. When I do that, I get that negative times negative 7 is positive 7. So I have 7 plus 5 in the numerator. In the denominator, I'm going to do 2 times 1, which is 2. So that gives me 12 divided by 2, which is 6. Alright, then what I have to do is I also have to subtract, because in my formula I have negative b minus the square root. So the second part of my answer is my negative times negative 7 minus 5, all divided by 2 times 1. So in the numerator, I have positive 7 minus 5, because a negative times a negative is a positive. So I have 7 minus 5 divided by 2 times 1. Well, 2 times 1 is 2. So then I get 2 divided by 2, which is 1. So my two answers are 6 and 1. Alright, now that's a lot that's going on, so we're going to take a look at another one. But every time this radical, it's not always going to come out to be a nice, pretty, perfect square. So we're going to take a look at one where you're going to get a decimal for an answer. Okay, so the second one that we're going to look at is 2x squared minus 7x equals 3. So again, go ahead and put that in your first box. First thing I have to do here is the fact that my quadratic equation doesn't equal 0. So what I have to do is I have to make my quadratic equation equal 0. So I have to get rid of this 3. So I'm going to subtract 3 on both sides. When I do that, I get 2x squared minus 7x minus 3 equals 0. Now that I have it set equal to 0, I can go in and identify my a, my b, and my c. And again, my a value here is 2. My b value is negative 7. And my c value is negative 3. Now I'm going to take these three values, I'm going to plug it into my quadratic formula. So that's going to give me negative times negative 7 plus or minus the square root of negative 7 squared minus 4 times 2 times negative 3. All of that divided by 2 times 2. And again, that just came from plugging in my values. My b value is negative 7. Again, my b value is negative 7. My a value is 2. My c value is negative 3. And then in the denominator, 2 times 2, because my a value is 2. So again, before I do anything, I want to take care of this crazy radical, and I want to simplify it all that I can. So inside my radical, I've got the square root of negative 7 squared, and negative 7 squared is 49. Now I have minus 4 times 2 times negative 3. And when I do that, I get that negative 4 times 2 is negative 8 times negative 3 is plus 24. Bring down my 49. So inside my radical, I have the square root of 49 plus 24, which is 73. Alright, now this cannot be, you cannot take the square root of this because it's not a perfect square. So I'm just going to take the square root of 73 and I'm going to plug it back in up here for all of that stuff that was there. Alright, now I have to separate and evaluate, so I have to do two problems because I have to do my negative b plus my square root divided by 2a. So my first answer is going to be by doing 7, because negative times negative is a positive. Now I'm going to have plus the square root of 73, all divided by 2 times 2, which is 4. Alright, when you do this, you're going to get 7 plus the square root of 73. And in your calculator, go ahead and do that, and you're going to get a crazy decimal. And when you get that decimal, you're still going to want to divide it by 4. And so your final answer, rounded to the nearest hundredth, is 3.89. My second answer comes from doing my negative b. And again, my negative b is a positive 7. So I have 7 minus the square root of 73. All of that divided by 4. And when I do first the 7 minus the square root of 73, evaluate that, and divide it by 4, I'm going to get negative 0.39. So my final answer would be 3.89 and negative 0.39.